What a day. It's day 56 and we are live. Hello, everyone. If you're watching the recording, welcome to. This is day 56 of 100 Days of Code. And we had a few short sessions in the past few days, so let's see what today has in store. But before we get to the meat, let's get to the guest. And the guest today is Leo Andersen. How are you doing?
Hello, hello. It's an honor to be a guest. A rare occurrence. Um, yeah, and I am curious if I remember much of the past few days because I went through all the sections without really talking much deeper about them with you afterwards. And also, I didn't do much coding along. I just watched and tried to understand. And yeah, basically we have a little bit of the middleware section left, handling errors. Also errors and validation section where we applied errors and validation into the Yelp campsite, and now today I did the section on data relationships with Mongo, and I gotta say it's been a lot of a lot of stuff in the past few days, a lot of new impressions or concepts. So I feel like I have to repeat much of it to really nail it or to really get it. But yeah, I think I should send you the code of the sections so we can go through it on screen. Let me download them. Finish the download real quick. Oh yeah, we also went. I mean that's part of error handling through JOI schemas. Yeah, that's just one of many different parts that we'll go into more detail. So, do you have the code of the middleware section still open somewhere, or should I send it again?
I can open it again. Give me a second. So the one that you sent me a few days ago, basically.
Yes.
Was middleware intro, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's about to be open. Give me one more sec. There it is. Put it here. And we can show that on screen, present entire screen. Let's go. Yeah, so here's the middleware intro code.
Perfect. Yeah, so basically, I think what we talked about last was the stuff that was commented out. And you correctly how do you say it, made me aware that if there's a return in front of the next, then the code after next doesn't get executed, or at least the code inside of the function. So the example that I explained before, where it's like, this is my first middleware, this is my second middleware, this is my first middleware after calling next. This only worked when the return was not inside of that function, but It happened. I looked it up, and it works. My question to this is why, like, why is it possible that next can be executed without return? Is next a function or a method, or what is this next element in its essence?
Yeah, next is just a function. And why can it be executed without the return? Because it is basically calling a chain of middlewares like that. I know that doesn't explain it well. So let me see. So the first question: why do we not need return? Because the return value of next isn't used. Next is a function that returns nothing, so it doesn't have a useful return value. But I'm thinking, can I code out a quick example that shows how next is used, so you can
Sure.
imagine it?
But sometimes inside of next we can have a return value, right? Like sometimes we can put an arrow into next.
Yes, but that is only passing then the value in to the next middleware, basically.
Okay, so we only need return if we want to make sure that nothing afterwards gets executed. Otherwise, we don't need it.
Yes, in terms of middlewares, yes. But also in most projects later, when you configure them with tools such as Prettier and EFLint, which you're going to learn about at some point, they warn you that this is bad code, right? Like if we comment this in, this code, oh, you can even see it. Like, can you see how this is slightly more gray than the rest? Because
Yes.
the editor knows, hey, there's no way this code can ever be executed.
Yes. Okay. So you wanted to code out an example to understand next deeper?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's try it. So we need to create our own little app for that. So let's create a new file here and call it example.js, and let's hook up our example code here. This here with this. How do we start this?
Was that a question to me?
No. I'm just thinking, so let's start with our usual like app object, more like this, and we need a use property, like this, and then we can hook up middlewares in some kind of value. Okay, let's do it with a closure so it's easier. So let's create our fake express function right here that returns something, and we create our add thing here, like this. And then let's scrolling. And then when we call that use, so let's create a function like this. We pass it 3 arguments, and it's in the class, response, and next. And use should line up the middleware somewhere. So let's just call maybe a middleware array like this. And next would be responsible. Like you wouldn't push it into the middleware. You'd basically say, hey, for each time we call use, we would put the handler into the middleware and then reduce over it. So look a little bit more like this, where we grab all of the middleware and we just push it in here. The push like this, and then let's call this a little bit different. Let's call this a middleware pipeline, so we don't shadow variables. Middleware pipeline. And when we handle a request, it would then iterate through all the middleware and basically execute each of the middlewares. But what about the next? How can we write this? Okay. I think I got an idea. So let's see here. This is, by the way, if you can't tell it from the top of my dome, but maybe we can do something so it's a little bit more obvious. So we have our use function, and we need some kind of handle request function that takes in the request and the response. Whether we do it with another function now, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to mix the two approaches just to underline that. And now we have our next function, which takes in maybe an error, but doesn't have to. And then if we have an error, we would obviously handle error like this and return here. And so we'll say count middleware equals to middleware pipeline index exactly. And if we have a middleware, then we would call the middleware with all the things. And afterwards, this is here, we would call next. I think this is already it. Let's see here. Okay, to test this, let's jump into Code Sandbox. So I'm going to stop the screen share here, present in Code Sandbox. Code Sandbox, let's go in. And let's do it here. So we put this here. And we would hook up all the middleware exactly. And first of all, we need to returning the app object. We hook up all the middleware, and then we would say app.handle requests. Oh, okay. So this is my first middleware. So something's happening, but maximum calls. So we have an infinite loop here. Let's see. Why is there an infinite loop here? Code Sandbox is blowing up, so let me quickly comment this out again and reload, and then we can think about it. Code Sandbox reloaded, sweet. So let's think about this. Why is there an infinite loop? So we put the middleware into the middleware pipeline, and when we handle a request, we take in request and response, and we then handle the first middleware with the request and response, and then the middleware is calling next for us. And when next is called, I think we're not incrementing the index. That is probably the bug. Let's see here. Yeah, we're not incrementing the index. So this is the error, I think. Let's see. Yep. Okay. Works. So we got 3 outputs, first, second, third, middleware. Okay, so now let's understand this, because I don't know if you were able to follow. So let's no, let's do it. So you remember the
a little bit louder as well. You're a bit muffled. But
is this better?
Maybe that's my speakers as well, because I use different speakers.
I think it might be the speakers, because I didn't change anything in my setup, but I'm now very close to my mic, and yeah.
Okay.
So I think you remember when we looked at how Express works under the hood, how there was a function called create application that many people renamed to Express to create the app, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we are doing a similar pattern here where we are returning this object here is basically the app. So we could also, to make it a little bit more obvious, say const app equals to this, and then we return app. So far, so good. Okay. We also create a middleware here, some local state that is encaptured in the closure of this function. Basically, because this middleware pipeline array is only defined inside of the closure of this function, even after it returns, the app using its methods still has access to this middleware pipeline, but nothing from the outside can access it. So this is truly private state. Does that make some sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So now we have our use function. And use takes in, the use function takes in another function, which is our middleware, right? So there's some function that at some point gets passed in the request, response, next, and a console or like whatever we do inside of it, but basically it takes in 3 arguments, and we just push this function into our array. So here we have afterwards, before we call handle request, when we call app.use, 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 we have an array of 3 functions. Make sense so far?
So this is my first, second, and third middleware, they get pushed into the array before they get executed.
Yes. So this is everything that's in the array, right? This is everything that's in the array, and this is everything that's in the array. I can also visualize it even more. Let's comment this out. So after we call use 3 times, the array looks like this. This obviously with my first, second, and third. But this is the array after we call use 3 times. Make sense?
Is this what happens in reality or with Express as well? Like, is this what happens there for real? That it reads first through all the middlewares and then puts them into an array?
I don't know how exactly the internal state is handled, but it's something like this. I haven't looked at the implementation, but it's something like this that is happening under the hood.
So is something like that necessary to be able to know where the next middleware is to get them to link to with the next?
Well, yeah, because app.use stores this middleware somewhere, right? Maybe it's an array, maybe it's an object, maybe it's something like a map or a set, because there are different things, different, how do you call it? Not primitive data types. I even forgot the word right now. Composite data types that can hold other stuff such as functions, but somewhere all of the middleware for each time that you call use is stored.
So it's not stored just in the file, but like in the line where you write it, but it's stored somewhere else?
Yeah, it must be stored somewhere in Express's internal state because it needs to access it before every request is handled.
Okay, interesting. I thought everything would be just executed from the file.
Yeah, well, that is true, but while the file has been executed, the middleware is somewhere saved into some local state.
Got it.
Of Express.
Interesting.
Okay, but it makes sense, right? How this app.use. If I remove this again, you'll still see it in your mind's eye how they end up all in the array, right?
Yeah, I could see that.
Easy. And next thing that is some kind of request is ended, right? Here we just wrote a generic handle request function. In the real world, it's like get post and so on, right? And they might even have different handlings of the middleware. Like this right now is not so much about the details, how it really looks on the board. It's more about getting you to understand why we need to call next and how calling next passes everything to the next middleware.
Got
Okay,
it.
so
Makes total sense.
in our handle request function here, we only take request and response. Right in the real world, this can also take in the next thing, but I wanted to keep it simple. And most request handlers never call their own next; they only call request and response. I think the examples that you showed me also all just do that and never call on next, because yeah, it's so uncommon. So I think for this example, just keeping it to request response also makes sense. So, and this is just, again, this is just one way that it could work. I don't know if it works exactly like this under the hood, but basically we have an index here that keeps track of which middleware is called first. And then, and it's also in our handle request function, take from the request and the response. Yeah. We define now another next function that can take in an error and then handle the error somehow and then return, because whenever an error occurs in one of the middlewares, it does not necessarily throw this error up to the next middleware. It could be, but yeah, it might not always do that. I don't know exactly the implementation of the middleware, but let's just say we handle error somehow, and let's look more at the happy path just to understand how next passes on the middleware to the next one. So we can say, hey, the current middleware is the middleware of the index that is of the current index number, right? In the first iteration, index is 0. And if you remember, there were two ways. I don't know if we even handled this yet, but you can say two ways to implement a number: index plus plus and plus plus index. And the difference between the two is this one returns this number first and then increments it. So this one returns 0 and then behind the scenes increments the index, versus this one, this increments first and then returns the index. So because we are writing it this way with index plus plus, we first get the zeroth middleware here, and now behind the scenes, this is incremented to 1. So basically, writing this would be the same, would be equivalent to writing it this way, where we would say this, and then we would say index equals to index plus 1. Make sense? Okay, cool. So now we have the zeroth middleware, and we say, hey, if we have a middleware, then we call the middleware with a request, response, and next. And now the first middleware is this. So this is what's being called. We pass in the request, we pass in the response, we pass in next. This console.log is logged out, and now next is called. When next is being called, what is happening is, oh, sorry, I'm a little too fast. Actually, we're not yet here. Before we kick off here, we call the first time next ourselves when we handle the request. And now what we just talked about is happening. And we are here now, and oops, the first middleware is being unlocked out. And now this one calls next again. And what's happening now is, now the index is 1. So we grab the second middleware in the array. The middleware exists, so we call this middleware with request, response, and next. So we are now here. Request, response is being passed in, is not used. Next is being passed in. Second middleware is being called and locked out, and the next function is being called. Then we were here again. Now the here again. Now the index is 1. So we sorry, the index is 2 now. So we grab the third middleware in the array. We increment the index again. We get the middleware because it exists. We pass in everything. We're here. We call the third middleware. We call next again. The index is now 3. We increment the index here again after we grab the third middleware, which doesn't exist because the array only has 3 middleware. So the middleware at index 3, the fourth middleware, doesn't exist. So this is never executed, and this whole program stops, and all the 3 middlewares got executed.
So where, like for example, line 60 or 59, the next, where exactly does that lead to? Like,
So when this next is being called, we're in the second middleware. So the index at this point is 2, right? Because the second middleware is the middleware of index 1. We grab the middleware, we increment the index to 2, so the index is 2. So at the point where we call this next right here, from 59, we go in here, the middleware index is 2. So we grab the third middleware, we increment the index to 4 behind the scenes. The third middleware exists. We call the third middleware with request, response, and next. And this is this middleware.
So next executes the function where that has an error inside.
Maybe we should get rid of this. Maybe this is confusing you. Let's not handle any errors. Let's make the example easier.
Now it makes sense. Yeah, now I get now everything makes sense. Yeah, but
okay.
But can we have the error thing inside just in case an error gets parsed in?
Yeah, that's why I kept it to a hint at you how it would be handled, right? Maybe if we have an error, this stuff never gets executed and we do something else. But this is the main part that should show you, okay, this is how one next to the next passes, basically basically how you defer the call of the next middleware to the previous middleware. This is what this code block should show you, and this should show you, hey, we can still pass it an error and then somehow handle it. But how this handling looks exactly under the hood, I don't know. We would have to probably look into the software, into the Express open source package.
No worries. Yeah, that makes total sense. That next is a function that basically grabs a middleware that has another, that basically grabs the next middleware. Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's got incremented.
Yes, exactly.
And what was my question? Why is there no else? Why is there if and if, or why is there not if and if else?
Because that's like a coding style. If you have a return after the if, you don't need an else, right? Because the return blocks everything that happens afterwards anyways. And this is the last thing that happens in the function. So there's also no else needed here.
Makes sense. Cool.
Nice. Then I'm gonna go back to the code that you sent me.
Yeah, so that's basically middleware under the hood.
Yeah, it probably looks a little bit different in the real world, right? But this is how just the gist of it, how it probably works ish from the mechanics point of view.
Nice. Mechanics and logic, I guess.
Yes.
Okay.
But as you can see, right, I totally pulled this out of thin air. That's also why I had to think a little bit in the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, and it seemed to work in the.
Yes.
So that was cool. Okay, so next, can you scroll up, please? So what do we have? Do we have here? Yeah, we like in line 8 we had the middleware example where we could add basically some data and that relates to the request and make sure that it gets logged out every time. So basically a little coding tool, I guess, that we can use middleware for. Then in line 14, what was that for? Yeah, that basically app.use on a specific URL is very similar to like you could yeah, use it even to render out a homepage every time, or a sub page every time that URL gets requested, or get like any type, but it will override any type of request, I guess, depending on where it is, like where the position of this middleware would be inside of the document. Did I get that right?
Yeah, the position of the middleware matters just in terms of which middleware comes before the others. And
Okay.
obviously if they handle the same roles. But since this is the first middleware that's being called, the request time is always logged out first. Even if you make a request to /docs, the first thing that's always happening is first we log out the request time, and then if it's also to /docs somehow, we also log out I love dogs, and then we handle the request.
Could we have like app.get and post and all the other different stuff, all the other request types, like in between, like before the app.use/docs?
Yes, we could. We could take all this code and put it above the use, but the middleware would still happen before the handler.
Because of the next, or
Because it's just the way that it works. The main middleware kind of tells you that it's in the middle between the request and your handler. That's why they call it middleware.
yeah. But what makes sure that it's always in front of the handler?
That's just how the Express works, slash, you saw how we did it, right? We had in our example that we just looked at, we had the handle request function call all the middleware for us. And something similar happens in Express.js. Like even if you define the handler function before the middleware, when the request comes in, the way that the code is written under the hood, it first executes all the middleware, and then it executes the request handler with no error accord.
My mind blanked out for a moment. I didn't. Can you repeat that?
So because of the way that Express is written internally, if I get it correctly, but you can see it in our example. What our example, the handle request function was the one that was then iterating through the middleware and was handling all of the different middlewares. And in the real Express app, something similar is happening, where also when you do any request, Express first goes through all the middleware, and then if by that time no error is occurred, it then takes care of the handler.
Got it. So inside of the create application function, we have the functions that take care of the middleware before the functions that take care of the handlers. In the
Yes,
order.
I do think that's the case, yes.
Okay, interesting. Okay, cool. So, well, then, what did we have? Now, these are mostly handlers. Oh, yeah. So, what? Let me say it like this. What about line 57? Because here we have, well, is it a middleware? I would say so.
Yeah,
App.use, right?
yes.
It doesn't use next, but so it's after all the others, and it waits, or it only gets activated or executed when none of the above handlers catches the request. So it seems like order matters still.
That's a good question. Because usually this should blow up as far as I understand. As far as I understand, this.
Pretty sure that this that he demonstrated and it worked.
Yeah, I assume it's correct. That's just super interesting.
Maybe the function that goes through all the middleware takes the order like the relationship to all the handlers like is calculating that in somehow.
Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe you can run middleware of the handlers. I'm currently looking it up real quick. Give me 1 second. Looks like you're right. So that means what I said earlier is wrong. Looks like the order matters for everything, and middleware can run after the. Okay, so middleware after the handlers runs spin express if the handlers before did not call send. So basically, when one of these handlers is catching, and since they're calling .send, this app.use is not executed, even though theoretically all middleware afterwards would be executed. So let's say we hook up this middleware one more time, also after all the handlers. Now, and let's maybe we could write this like this and be like this after request method, and this one we would call before request method. 1 second. Yeah, so we have this after, we have this before. Because let's say we hit this route, right? This goes through this middleware, it logs out the before. It goes through this middleware, this is only /docs. In the index route, we're not all /route. So it would log out the request time and then would return homepage. And then, okay. Now I don't understand it. This one would also not be executed because we call .send here. So basically, as soon as you call .send, all the middleware afterwards never gets executed. Then we call, or if we are on this route also, this middleware would execute, this middleware would execute. Then the console.log would come out here and it would return with woof. And if we hit a route that is not defined here, then we would get before, we would not get I love dogs because it's only for /dogs. We would get after, and then we would send the not found thing. Does that make sense?
Yes. So the mechanics under the hood are a bit different then, or?
The mechanics under the hood are what we had earlier, just with more stuff, obviously. And the mechanics are basically if there is a .send in one of the handlers, then all of the middleware defined after the handler does not get executed.
So is there also um, a loop that iterates over the whole page and iterates through all the handlers as well, and or like how does it know? Is it somewhere saved somewhere in the internal state? What the order of all the different handlers and middlewares and all that stuff is?
Well, not for the handlers, I don't think, because I think the handlers is just and could be any data shape, but could, for example, be an object with the key, well, the key is the route, and then the value is the handler. So that Express knows, okay, if the request is against slash, just the index route, then we need this handler, then we need to use this handler here. If the request is against slash docs, then we need to use this handler here. So I think because for handlers, you don't need to iterate through all of them, right? You only do always use one of them, the one that is matching the current route. You wouldn't need to iterate through anything.
Okay, so probably because it's always a handler is always specific to a request, and you can't have multiple handlers to one specific request at the same time.
Yes.
Interesting. And if we would have different, like, if that would be possible, then they would be would be iterated over in an array to make that possible. Or
Could you repeat that? I didn't quite understand that.
yeah, I don't know if it makes that much sense. Yeah, I think we can forget that. But yeah, I'm just wondering about how Node and Express read through the file. So what gets stored in the internal state, what doesn't, and it's
Well, this is another of those cases. It doesn't matter too much. It only matters that you know how to use it. But it doesn't matter that you understand how the V8 engines inside of your Porsche works. Only what matters that you know how to use the steering wheel, the pedals, and the shift. But if you're ever curious about it, you can just start reading the Express.js code and slowly, understand every little nuance. But yeah, the main thing is that you understand its API and how to use it. And by the way, I just found out, I've been reading the docs here in the background. You can have multiple handlers for one request, but all of the handlers to the same route run sequentially. So if we put another handler here that also handles the slash route, then as long as this handler is not using send, this handler would also fire. But since this one is using send, this handler will not fire.
So there's not much a handler can do without hitting send, right? I mean, logging stuff, but
yeah, I mean, it could be logging stuff, it could be writing stuff to the database, could be querying some stuff from the model server.
But then you could write everything into the same handler.
Of course, yeah. I mean, the reason why I'm very insecure about these topics right now, very unsure, I think the correct term. The reason I'm very unsure about these questions is because I literally, in all my years coding, never came across these in the real world, these examples. So we're very pushing the limits right here.
Got it. All right, okay. So yeah, and then if we scroll further down, yeah, we have the app.get/secret, and in the we see that after /secret we have we call verified password. I'm not sure if we imported that from a different file or if it's in this file as well. Okay, yeah, we have it in this file. So that's basically a callback function that gets executed no, it's basically a function that we can use as middleware. Is that similar to middleware in this case?
It is literally a middleware because it has the same arguments that our
Ah,
middleware has.
there's next inside as well. If there wouldn't be next inside, then it wouldn't be middleware, right?
Well, if there wouldn't be next inside, then this would never execute. Oof. The code, this line 58 would never execute without, if this would never call next.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, and so basically the verified password is just a function that checks if we have the correct password inside of the URL, which is, I mean, as far as I understood it, yes, the authentication works kind of similar to middleware, or like in between. Or yeah, in between requests basically, or like in between the request and the response, but it's not recommended to use passwords inside of the URL. If you scroll up to the verified password function, we can see that the query string would have needed the password chicken nugget inside. So the URL would have to be like something /secret password equals chicken nugget, and then we then next would be called, and if not, then we would see that you need a password and you can't access the secret. Yeah, that's basically it for middleware.
Awesome. Then, yeah, any more questions?
I think not on middleware, no. Let me check the next section. By the way, we're already streaming for 9 hours.
9 hours?
9 hours. Isn't that shown to you as well? Like in my corner, it says we're streaming for 9 hours and 48 minutes.
So but for me, it says 48 minutes.
Okay, it shows 9 hours. It's funny. Okay, so the key to express, yeah, middleware, we have that already. Handling errors. Yeah, okay, handling errors. I have the code. Let me send it to you.
But maybe let's speed it up and only do questions instead of like a full walkthrough for all of the other stuff.
Okay, is it too much on the time for you, or?
No, I mean, I don't know how long this will take. Right? If we do this with each section, the question is how much value does it bring to people? Like if you feel it brings value to you, we can do it. But I think the most important thing will probably be to handle any questions that you have.
Yeah. So my questions are like. To me, it's very helpful to walk through it and then get the feedback if I understand it right.
Okay, then let's do it.
To me, that was very helpful now as well to see that there aren't any that I understand it so far. But I guess in the future, to keep it a bit shorter, I can try to go through it before the session and then see if if I have any gaps.
Yeah, I think that might be more helpful. But let's do it for now with walking through it together. No worries.
Right. So where's the express error? Here we go. Send. Why is it not sending? Still getting used to the new. Okay, here we go. You should get the code in a second. Unable to load selected attachment. What's going on? Let me send the file directly. Maybe. Okay.
Got it?
Yeah, I have it.
Well,
I have to send the zip file, not the unzipped file. Come on. No. Now you should have it.
yeah, mode came through. Let me open it and the code. What is it called? Express errors. Okay. And share the entire screen, and here we go. Basic errors first, I think.
Yes. Okay. But okay. Is that still in the error thing? Okay. Yeah. So errors is still a big. I wouldn't say mystery to me, but I feel like there's so much stuff to it that I have no idea if I understand it well enough. Is this file in the? I don't see any error stuff in there. Oh yeah, I see some. I see one.
Both chicken with file. They were checking console, but
Yeah, that's exactly that was the point of this thing.
they have no got it.
Okay, now I see the errors. Okay, so yeah, basically we used I don't know how to describe it exactly, but it seems like there's an error class, and we used we defined our own error class by extending the error class that already exists. We call our own error class app error, and we use the constructor function. I don't know how to describe it right, but but I know that we basically it uses message and status from the error class as the inputs, and then it basically wait a second. So it what wait is I don't get that with the constructor thing, and the super thing that was not he didn't really explain it. He was like, yeah, that I don't know gets stuff from the error class. Yeah, this would be something that well, I know that this whole thing is used, so we can basically um, like on the left side in line 49, we already see that we can use app error or throw a new app error, and we can put inside a message and a status, and this is basically like this ability we have because we did the stuff on the right side, but I don't know how to describe the stuff on the right side. I only know that we have message and status inside there as well, and that we get it from somewhere, but I'm not sure like uh, where is like what is the super doing?
Yeah, that is a complete topic on its own. I'm very wondered that Cold does not go through with you guys on the course about that. Basically, I think first you should look up like classes and how they work in JavaScript, maybe through different video on YouTube and stuff, and then we can go into it. Because you need to understand like constructors and what classes and stuff to handle such most nuanced questions about like what super specifically does. Because
Okay,
if we answer this question, like this is literally like a 1 hour lesson on classes before we can get to this part of it.
so you don't remember that it was in the course so far as well, right?
No, the course has changed definitely since I had taken it. So, I definitely remember that they handled classes at some point.
But I mean we did our calls every day so far, and there was no
Yeah,
section where
you
we
never brought it up exactly.
okay. So because I was wondering, like I know like we went through constructor functions, but
Yeah,
is that
that
the
is a
same?
little
I mean,
different.
it had this dot something as well. I mean, that's
Yes, I mean, classes are syntactic sugar around constructor functions. However, there's a bunch of stuff that you need to first look at before we can get to super in terms of classes.
okay. So we had constructor functions, but we didn't have classes.
Yeah, you need to get at least, yes.
So what should I look up exactly? Classes in JavaScript or?
Yes. I can also send you some stuff on it if you want, and then you don't need to look for stuff yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you have, it's always great to have verified content by you.
Awesome.
Okay, yeah. So, but basically, we kind of created our own app error that we can throw, and yeah. What else can I say about errors? We need them to make sure that when, like, we have to think about all the different stuff that could go wrong. Of course, we can never like it's very unlikely that we will think of all the different cases, because if you build something with a ton of users, there will always be some who find out very niche bugs probably, or niche problems, but stuff like yeah, having if a user types in a URL that is not part of your website, you can catch that with for example, the middleware that we see in line 52. And yeah, if that's not the like, what I didn't fully get is why we have the app.use, the error middleware in line 65 after the app.use in line 52, because line 52 should catch everything from there, right? And it has a .send, so app.use in like lines 65 wouldn't get executed at all anyway, would it?
No, it does. Because this one is a middleware with less than 4 arguments, it does not get called if there's an error. So if you go to /admin, this error is being thrown, this app.use is being ignored, and this app.use catches.
In case something before app.use catches it and refers down to line 65.
Yes, I think there's some logic in Express that all middlewares with 4 arguments get called if a middleware or a route handler that comes before them throws, even if there's a send in them. In between, in middlewares between, they just get ignored.
So even if line 53 gets thrown, this lands in line 65 as well? 65, yeah?
Yes.
Got it. Because it takes in an error, basically, as an argument.
Well, did you say 53? 53 doesn't throw. This is errorless code.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But could we throw an error and like in line 53, if we would add a line?
Yeah, but this would only happen if we hit a route that is not defined here, right? So we could do another error here, and this would then only catch if we hit a route that's not defined here, but then we would go here, instead of returning a 404, we would return a 500 again, because this would be over here. There's no send, so this would override it.
Because after the throw, nothing else gets executed as well.
After the throw, the next thing that gets executed is only middleware with 4 arguments.
Yes. But not in the same handler or in the same middleware. Nothing else gets executed.
Yeah, throws like a return, like everything after doesn't happen.
Got it. And could we throw after the rest.send? No, right?
Yeah, you can.
Like, what would happen then?
The client would get the response from the sender, I think. The throw would still happen, but I don't think it. Then this send would blow up because there was already something sending.
Okay. So it can't because it's synchronous.
Yeah, there would be that. You definitely get lots of server-side errors.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so in line 48 we see the case where someone tries to exit /admin and maybe like is not authorized. We didn't define it any further here, but here we have like, just in case anyone accesses /admin, we throw the error, you're not an admin. Just as an example of what can be a use case for basically for errors. The secret thing we had already. Can you scroll further up? The chicken.fly thing or throws an error by itself, and I guess this then gets caught by the line 65 that we had before with the 4 arguments. Is there another error? Can you go above or scroll up, please? No. Okay, I think not that many examples. I remember like a section full of examples, everything going back and forth, and so many cases. Yeah, that was the section inside of YADCamp, with lots of where we applied the error handling, but I mean, except for the exact syntax and except for classes, do you think there's anything missing, anything important missing from my understanding so far?
No, I think you have a very thorough understanding for where you're at.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, and yeah, we have to catch those errors. We have to think of those of all those situations, because if we don't build this in, then the program will probably not in all cases, but in many cases the program will just basically be confused, and like we get stuff like a spinning cursor, and I don't know what kind of stuff could happen. Like stuff could if we fill out a form only partially, and or type in the wrong data, then the code that is processing that data gets problems, and we have to catch all of that stuff beforehand, or give the program basically a signal that it knows, oh, this is an error, this is wrong input maybe, or whatever. So it's not keeping on trying to solve the problem. I don't know. That's my understanding so far, but I guess there's a little clearer explanation of that part. How would you say what I was trying to explain?
You mean the JOI stuff?
No, that's something else. That's good that you remind me of. But I was more trying to explain the concept of error handling itself, like why that is important. Like, because sure, we want the user to see that the behavior is not leading anywhere helpful, and that the user should try something else to get to the desired solution that the user is trying to accomplish. But like, why it's good for the program itself, as far as I understand it, if errors get caught. And
yeah, I mean, the worst case, your server blows up and just stops working. And also one use case that is not mentioned there, but that is very prevalent in the real world, is also error logging. So you want to try and handle as many error cases as you can and put loggers at the end of them, so that when something goes wrong, you see it in your logs and you can debug it and then fix the errors.
And how would the server blow up?
Well, you can just run the app, remove some of the error handling middleware, trigger an error, and see what happens. Like, the process will stop. And then if that happens in the real world, yeah, your server just shut down.
And why is that happening? Why can't it recognize the errors on its own?
That's just not how Express works. There might be other server frameworks, but Express is very do everything yourself kind of, So it's there are always trade-offs. If you need to consciously do everything, every single thing that is happening. That's the trade-off there. So full control versus some built-in security.
Got it. I mean, there are some built-in errors in Express, as far as I remember. There's a lesson on that, but it doesn't know all of the different possibilities that could result from the program that we write into it, that we use Express with. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, if one of the frameworks or structures that we're working with don't know that there's an error, then it keeps on executing and basically that results in code that can, or it tries to execute code that can't be executed, and then it crashes. Basically, is that a good description?
Yes, it tries to execute as long as there's no error, and if there's an error and there's no handling, then the whole process crashes, and if there's handling, then the handling kicks in.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, basically, there's one thing. There's a concept, for example, that we can also prevent errors by is if we make sure that, for example, when a user is filling out a form, we make sure that the request can't be sent before all of the data is in the right format and stuff. Like we can do that with JavaScript, and like even before it happens, before the user sends the post request by submitting. That is called validation, and that can also be done with Bootstrap, for example, which is part JavaScript, part HTML and CSS. And yeah, as far as the JOI thing is basically if we have, for example, a form where we have multiple inputs that could each result in a different error. So, for example, error you didn't you didn't type in a price. Then it will be a different error than you didn't type in your email. So with the JOI thing, we can create like very specific errors for very specific smaller situations, and have a lot less stuff that we have to write inside of the handlers, basically, and we can, for example, if you have a form that expands, like that grows over time, where you have more and more inputs, then you don't want to add too long of a code each time to handle each new error that's possible. And yeah, I don't know the exact syntax. I would have to look that up for the joy. I think you have to install it. It's an npm package, and then basically, I mean, if you scroll down a little bit, okay, yeah, basically, Where did you get that file from? From the Yelp camp errors and validating?
No, I just quickly asked ChatGPT in the background for an example. So we have a draw example.
Got it. So basically, what do we see here? Find the validation scheme, validate the request here. It looks a bit different than I remember, but I don't know if it's that important, to be honest. Is that something one can skip, or I can skip and look at later?
Yes, because later you will learn Zod. Let me show something. Let's stop the screen share and share this real quick. This Zod, I'm also going to send you the library, whole DMs. But basically, if you just look up Zod on Google or DuckDuckGo and put in Zod GitHub, you can find the open source repository. And Zod is the main schema validation engine right now that pretty much everyone recommends in JavaScript. It's just the fastest. It's has a very clean API. Yeah, I think if you one day, in a few months or so, learn how to use Zod properly, that's all you need. Joy has a different API. Joy is strictly inferior. Joy is way older. So as long as you get the gist of Joy, that it can just do a bunch of validation for you, that otherwise you'd have to do manually, that's good. You don't need to memorize the API because Zod will be way more important.
So is the validation that can be done with Joy and Zod, is that the same as error handling, or is that like pre-error handling?
Yeah, it's pre-error handling. So Zod is mostly used to make sure that the input data in each request is correct. I think you gave a similar example. So for example, if the user puts in a password using Zod, you can then make sure on the server that it's long enough, that it contains all the different characters and signs that it should, stuff like that.
Got it. Yeah, and basically that can show. Well, as far as I've seen it, it can also be used to to handle an error if we use it, if we try to fill out the form with Postman. Because if we have the form on our website and it's the user is filling it out there, then inside of the JavaScript of that form, we can build in these safety mechanisms of the validators. But if we would send the post requests to that form, for example, from Postman, we don't have that validation layer in between. But in there, we also we can get individual error messages based on those individual.
Yeah, but we're mixing a few types of error handling up here. Like technically, you can call both of these error handling, right? But the error handling that we looked earlier was like literally something blowing up on the server and making sure that the server stays up. And you, if you do logging too, you get useful information about the error, as well as sending the user a meaningful response so that they know something went wrong. This right here is more, we parse the schema, and then if the schema validation fails, there's an error. And then we tell the user, hey, this was wrong in your schema. And usually you then also display it in the user interface so that they know what to do about it.
what about the case that someone accesses or is sending the post requests with all the form inputs from Postman?
Yes, same spiel. So if something blows up on the server because something goes wrong, that is the error handling we looked at earlier. If the inputs are wrongly formatted, that's the error handling that we're talking about now, where it's more or less like the validation of the input schema is going wrong. But we also call it error handling. But I just want to help you to have a little two different boxes where you put these two in, because they have the same name, but they're a little bit different in terms of just the concept of it.
Okay.
They both are mapped to the same word, but it's slightly different things. There are obviously similarities, right? But the one thing is literally, okay, something is blowing up on my server and I'm making sure that the server stays up. Whereas this is something went wrong when the user sent, like the user basically malformed their request to our server.
But couldn't that lead to the server blowing up as well?
Definitely, yes. That's also how these are, again, interrelated.
Okay.
But basically here you prevent an error internally from happening by validating that the user sent valid stuff. Whereas the other thing is some error happened internally on the server, and now you're handling that error so that it's not causing your server to crash.
Makes sense.
So you can maybe think about it. This is error handling, yes, but you could also think about it of like error prevention a little bit.
Yes. So we had these examples in the course where code sent that post request from Postman, where we didn't get a warning from the user interface, but we got like a console or terminal style error message that we didn't use the correct input. Is that's that's how do I say it? Is that a layer deeper than just the form itself? Because we're not using the form, are we? We're using the request body in that case.
That a layer deeper. Could you rephrase the course? I don't know if I completely understand it.
So as far as I understood it, the first kind of validation that we used was basically we took a form from Bootstrap that has validation built into it.
That's client-side validation, yes, because it happens in the browser of the user.
Okay, and the JOI is server-side validation, or?
Yes.
Got it. That's so we basically have error handling, error prevention, and inside of the error prevention we have client-side and server-side.
You can think about it that way, yeah. And the whole important thing is you always need server-side and you should have client-side. But the thing is, you should have client-side because that makes the user experience just a lot better. But you must have server-side because even if you could technically guard against anything on the client, there are evil people out there that could circumvent your client-side interface and just hit your API directly using tools like Postman. So you always need to, if you want to guard against malicious people, you always have to make sure that your server does all the validation too.
That was very, very helpful. I'm very grateful that we talked through this. So I could sort all of that stuff that I got.
That's what this is here for. More than happy for you.
Yes. Yeah. Well, today I also did the data relationships with Mongo section, but I guess let's do that tomorrow, because tomorrow I will have also a section on Mongo relationships with Express. And I would say we can do both of them at the same time.
That sounds very good.
And maybe, well, I would like to do the section afterwards as well. Maybe even 2 sections afterwards, until section 47. Maybe we can shorten as I already said before, maybe we can really shorten the process of going through all of it. If I go through it basically twice before, so go through it once, basically just normal course style, and then go through it on my own, as if I were explaining it to you, and then I'll see where the gaps are, and maybe this way we can cramp 3 to 4 sections into tomorrow, maybe.
Sure, yeah, let's try it out and see what happens.
Well, maybe 4.
Yeah, that's why I said let's just see what happens. Like, more pressure.
Yes. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Nice. It's so helpful. It was so helpful to go through the error stuff now. So,
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. All right.
Thank you too. Then thanks everyone also for watching. This has been a long one. We told you the past 2 days we're going to make up for the short streams. I hope we delivered, and I hope we continue to deliver over the coming days. Keep coding. Just do it every day. I hope you learned something today too. I hope we can clear up your confusions. If you're watching the recording, out of live, it's always fun. And thank you everyone. This has been day 56 of 100 Days of Code with
Leon Andersen and my mentor
LF Lil from TEDxDev. ABC. See you guys.
ABC. Until tomorrow.